Now we're live.
Echo, echo, echo. We had a little technology problem, but we're here. We are here on this lovely day. And I am Kimberly, otherwise known as Black Crypto Chick. My lovely host is Rashona B, otherwise known as RB Rising One. And
One.
today we have the glorious Noy Brooks in the house. Hey, and she's going to be imparting some jewels on us today. So let me just give you a little background about Miss Noy Brooks. She is a multifaceted artist. She actually started in corporate HR, you know, and then she had a passion for art and jewelry design. And Noy has evolved into a trailblazer in the Web3 space with a passion for mindfulness and AI generated art. She's bridging the gap between technology and wellness. Get ready as we dive into her fascinating journey. How in the world did she go from HR to art? But we all have a little artist in us, don't we? And so we have the lovely Noy Brooks. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Echo.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here. I'm looking forward to our conversation. And yeah, let me know where you want me to start. I'm ready to dive
Of
in.
course. Listen, let's dive in. Let's do it. So, the first thing we always start with me, start with Echo is how did you get into Bitcoin?
So I got into Bitcoin like many of us during the shutdown in 2020. I had actually heard about Bitcoin years before, but I couldn't understand digital currency. That made no sense to me. To me, currency is something you hold in your hand, like a dollar bill or gold coins or something like that. So when I heard folks talking about it, I just like I couldn't wrap my mind around it. Now, I
Mhm.
also heard them talking about the blockchain, and that I thought was intriguing. But what I never got at that point was how both of them are hand in hand. And cryptocurrency is the fuel that oils the machine of
Mhm.
blockchain. Without
Mhm.
crypto, there is no blockchain because crypto is the funding. That is how people get paid in blockchain. And it's a much better design of money than the
Mhm.
current system that we have.
Mhm.
So, fast forward to 2020, took a course with Journey to Wealth and began to do my own research. And at the time, research for me was finding movies that talked about Bitcoin, looking at articles, watching a lot of YouTube videos, getting an understanding of the background of Bitcoin, why it was founded, why it was founded in 2008 when we had that horrible market crash, and really understanding the potential of it. And then again, I had to change my wiring to understand that something that's not tangible that I can hold in my hands is real. And that for me was the biggest breakthrough because prior to that, I couldn't get the concept. So that's when I got into it. And I also did some research on Ethereum. And I got a little bit of that too, because I'm a believer in both of them. I'm not a Bitcoin maxi. I do want to say though that I was still very scared. It didn't seem like it seemed like a risk, and it was a huge risk because I didn't know enough about the industry at that time. So I invested the teeniest amount I could. Like they said, 1 to 5% is it's advisable to do more than that. So I just did 1%. And my biggest regret was like I didn't throw the whole cannon. I didn't throw everything into it because now that I understand what a strong investment it is, I would have invested much more at the time when the prices were, significantly lower. But that's how I learn. And I also understand about myself, although I'm somewhat of a risky investor, I'm also cautious in the beginning. I don't want to throw everything in because I want to test things out first. So, you learn.
Thank you. Listen, you have a fascinating story. I think in this time, and even being a woman of wisdom, you are a trailblazer, you're multifaceted, and I would love for you to take us on a journey to really kind of get to understanding the power of integration, the power of reinventing yourself. I think in this time and space, sometimes as we evolve, as we get older, we don't know how to merge technology with the things that we're doing. So we went from HR to art to jewelry making to Web3. That's fascinating. Most people don't even want to get a smartphone. So take us on a journey to really know it's true, right? And
I
so
did for years.
right, they had the
I
flip
didn't want
phone,
anybody to have that kind of access to me. I was like, no. I'm not getting
right,
I used to tell my
right.
boss, I'm like, no, no, and no.
So please, for those who are watching, trying to understand what was echoing in your life to allow you to make those ripple effects to be the woman that you are now.
Yeah. So it's it's a bit of a round circuitous journey, and I'm going to start with the AI part, but I'm going to work my way back to Web3 because that came actually before the AI. So, trying to make a long story short, during COVID times, I took a poetry class and I wrote a poem about my cats. And the people in my class loved the poem and they're like, you should publish that into a book. And at the time, I didn't. It wasn't on my mind. But a few years later, I said, you know what? You have a little something here. Try it. There's no harm in doing that. So I wanted it to be illustrated. And as an artist, I didn't want to illustrate it myself because I'm not that good of an artist. I wanted to work with another working illustrator. So I began the journey of looking for an illustrator. And I also decided I'm going to do other things with this book. I'm a collector as well. I've been collecting art for years. And I wanted to highlight, I collect contemporary women artists. Not exclusively, but a lot of my artists and I wanted to highlight them. So I figured, I could have the illustrator draw the environment, some of the pictures on the wall and the vases and the sculptures, and then put them, put the names of the artists in the back of the book so they could get some highlight as well. So as I'm having all these ideas, the price tag for this little project I have is ratcheting up because you're going to hire somebody and they're not just going to draw the cats now they're drawing the environment and depicting the artwork and da 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 da. So while I realized that I don't have the budget for this, at the same time, I began to hear there was a course that again was available through Journey to Wealth in how to publish your own book. And I had already written it, so I wasn't concerned about the writing aspect. I just wanted to go through the mechanics of using AI to help me get this book into realization. And while I was taking the course, the instructor said, you can do the artwork yourself using AI. And I didn't know that at the time. I had seen a little bit of AI generated art, but again, I'm an artist and I was like, this doesn't feel warm and fuzzy. I don't know what this technology is. But in taking the course and playing with AI, I began to see that I could generate at least some of what I wanted to do in my book. Not all of it, and I'll speak to that in a second. And so I challenged myself to really, I used Midjourney. That was the AI tool that I used. And I actually, full story, have not finished that book yet, but I did get a couple of other books out. So at least I use the technology in the full way it was designed and actually published something. But I began to play around with it and I fell in love with it because for me, it enabled me to create pictures that would have taken me a year to draw on my own and or work with another artist to get to fruition. And I was able to do it in a more economical way that, worked for my budget. So they like to use the word democratize, but it gave me more access as a creative. And so what AI has become for me is another tool in my toolkit. And that's all it is. It's like a paintbrush, it's like a pen, it's like beads. It's another tool that I, as a creative, can use to get my creativity and my message into the world. And that is the biggest thing for me with AI. it will make it happen sooner. If I've been
Mhm.
working on this book individually, life happens, I may not be able to get back to the project for 6 months. It takes a couple of months to get one rendering done. With AI, it's a much quicker process that makes the reality of something being born that much more feasible and accessible for creatives. Now, there's a lot of concern about AI, and there should be, because you want
Mhm.
to use AI in an ethical manner. And we can talk a little bit about that as well. But one of the things I did do was publish my two coloring books, which are focused on having a mindful coloring practice. That's also a gift. If I'd
Mhm.
been doing the rendering by hand, the images wouldn't have looked the way they started to look. And when I
Mhm.
was prompting for imagery, I was getting all of these kinds of designs in the imagery. And it reminded me of a practice called Zentangle. Zentangle is like a doodling practice, but it's a mindful doodling. And you get into these little design moments called tangles, where you're just drawing lines and it's very meditative. And that's what I
Oh, she froze. She froze.
It was getting too good.
I know, right? Noi, if you can hear us, maybe you want to hop out and hop back in because your screen is frozen. We can't hear you at all. Did you message her, Rashana? Yeah. Okay. You're muted, Rashana.
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Powerful. I think it's powerful when you can. The first thing I heard that she said that she kept an open mind, because we can't transform or integrate anything if we don't have an open mind. If we sit in the place of I can't evolve, I can't, or I don't want to grow, then it becomes challenging for us to even see that there's things available that can elevate us in this new world, right? You either become of it, you either grow with it or you become stagnant.
Mhm.
Peace, Coochie Coach. Hey, love. How are you? Hey, peace, Ansel. Peace, Jump Out Girls. Peace, Alex. Well, welcome back. I was just filling in, just admiring your ability to grow. And the main thing that we heard was that you had an open mind. And that open mind led you into transforming your life in many different levels of integrating what you love to do into the evolution of art and technology. She fell off again.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm
there you
I'm wondering
go.
if I have to join via my phone, but I'm gonna hope that this works.
Right,
Maybe.
or Ansel said you get blockbusted. But yes, please continue on the journey because again, you have so much nuggets and you are a resource. And I'm glad that you're here because the world needs to see it's possible to evolve from maybe what you went to school for, then that evolved because maybe that wasn't your passion or your purpose. And then you realize now technology is becoming the world, and either you become scared of it or you learn to dive in and you dove in. So please continue on just how you mastered to where you are now.
Okay. So I think where I left off, I started working with AI, and then I ultimately published two coloring books,
Your book.
which have a mindfulness focus. And the reason for the mindfulness focus was because I had delved into Web3, and I was fascinated by Web3. That was to me like finding out about crypto. There's this whole, it's not just the cryptocurrency and the investing and making money. There's these projects and people are building these amazing things, and I didn't know anything about it. Like, I had heard about crypto, but I didn't know, like, behind Bitcoin there's like a project and all of the meaning behind it. And behind Ethereum there's a project, and there are these smart contracts which enables all of these things to happen, and people are getting together, having conferences around the world and building out these amazing ideas and exchanging information. And it's accessible. I mean, I came from working for a Swiss bank and I worked in HR. Nothing's accessible. There's all gatekeeping. only gatekeeping all the time. And here you could be sitting next to the CEO of this amazing project, and they're going to share all the information with you just because you're there and you're interested. It was
Mhm.
mind blowing for me, and it was super exciting. And I tried to go to as many conferences as I could and burnt myself out like a fat rat, like in seconds. I am not Gen Z. I don't know how to, bow down to Gen Z, Gen AI, millennials. I was like, I couldn't get up after day one. I was like exhausted. They're starting at 7 a.m. and I'm kind of, turning over at 7 a.m. So I realized, as excited as I was about everything, I was not going to be a DJ traveling around the world doing all these conferences and hackathons because my body can't keep up with that.
Mhm.
I'm going to tap in, but I have to tap in another way. And that is like doing things remotely. But that is part of why my focus with AI was bringing mindfulness, because I saw how the world is moving with technology and I can't move at that pace. And many of us can't, or we can for a short spurt,
Mhm.
but we have human bodies that
Mhm.
have needs, and we have to attend to those and find a way to bring some mindfulness practices that are readily accessible, which
Uh-huh.
is why my coloring books are a focus on coloring. It's something you can have at home, you have your coloring tools, and you check into that and check out of all of the other things for a few and sustain yourself and feed yourself.
Mhm.
So that's kind of the round the way kind of journey into the getting into AI and then getting into Web3 and finding out about all these exciting things that people are building in the world.
Yeah, people are building a lot. And it's interesting because you're a woman of a particular age, as am I and Shona. And many of us, as we approach, I don't know, our 40s or 50s or whatever, we probably looked at our career and decided that, oh, we want to do something different, like we never really enjoyed it, or you enjoyed it, but you just want to do something different. And so would you say that you're delving into AI, not just AI, but the delving into AI helped you to realize there are more possibilities and even beyond the art? Have you like delved in further with just, prompting or whatever and decided like, hey, I could really use this and maybe other people who are of a particular age can do this because we need to consistently reinvent ourselves. So has it helped you in any way?
Absolutely. And so, what I'll say for me was before getting into the Web3, I've always wanted to be an artist. I actually went to art school. But the thing for me was the starving artist thing, not part of my persona.
Mhm.
And I just was like, I got to get a job. I tried the art thing initially, and it was a challenge for me to um, create enough income to sustain myself. So for me, I chose to go into a corporate field because I felt like I don't want to be starving.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that was the choice that I made. I
Mhm.
never enjoyed it though. It wasn't, my
Mhm.
soul did not find a home in corporate America, which is true
Mhm.
for many people. And as soon as I could get out, I did. And I thought I would just go back into the arts. And so I got into fiber arts and then I started doing millinery. But while I was doing that process, I felt like it still wasn't enough.
Mhm.
I enjoyed what I was doing, but when it became a business, it didn't feel fulfilling in the way I had hoped that it would. And
Mhm.
I left, I was just like, what is there? You always wanted to do art. What more is there? And
Mhm.
that's when I was open for something else. Because I feel like if I would have found fulfillment just in doing the art, then
Mhm.
maybe I wouldn't have been open to conversations about innovative technology and
Mhm.
investing in crypto. But I
Mhm.
was open because I was looking for something. And I'm so fortunate that I was available. I wasn't locked down in a job at the time when
Right.
all of this information became available, because then I could really, be open and
Mhm.
dive into things that are possible. And I invite, women my age, we're going to be around for a minute. The way this technology is going, I'm actually hearing from some of the thought leaders in the space that if you can sustain your vehicle, your body to 2030, The technology will keep you going for another 50 years. And this is if you're at 50, like guaranteed, the technology coming down the pipeline is really going to make us superhuman. But we've got to do our part to be here and to embrace this technology. And more than embrace it, I invite our brothers and sisters to build this technology, especially in the Black and Brown community, because if we are not in the forefront of things, we're going to have things built for us, and we're not going to like where we're positioned on the back end of things. And that's one of the main reasons I'm super excited about being in this space, because I am involving myself with the technology, hopefully in a way that's going to embrace someone who looks like me and make a space for other people who look like me to step in and build what's important to them. Um,
Mhm.
People talk a lot about AI and how it can take over jobs, but when you're building an AI, you can create solutions for things that are really going to change your community. And that's not going to happen if we're not in, because people aren't looking for solutions that are going to solve things in our community. They're looking for things that are going to, make things easier for them in their lives. We have to be the ones that build this technology and use it to its maximum. Otherwise, it won't be beneficial to us. And will the fear that may be out there will have been realized because we didn't get in and build this technology the way it can be built so that it's the asset it truly is. I think the calling it artificial intelligence, sidebar, you didn't ask this, but it's a misnomer. There's nothing artificial about it. It is from humanity. Humanity is what's in there. And why it's so important that we're a part of it is that we are a part of humanity, and our voices and stories need to be on the front end of building the technology. Because once we're on the back end, it's kind of late to get in and form something. So I'm very passionate about that.
No, I love your passion. I love your fire. And you kind of entwined the question that I wanted to ask next because being in this place, I know a lot of things deals with financial freedom, right? And so what I want to ask and pose is, how has your experience in Web3 and crypto influenced your perspective on financial independence and stability? A lot of people don't think that it's possible.
Well, I mean, BK crypto is like the light at yonder hill that I look to for seeing where it is possible. Like I'm a believer because of what's happening with BK crypto and certainly in some other areas and in with some of the people in the communities that I travel in. So all of that to say is that I haven't made it to the promised land yet in terms of my investments, but I have investments and I'm in the game. And this is something, even though so I worked for Credit Suisse. And here's another thing, I worked for Credit Suisse. And Credit Suisse is no more. That should say something. And I don't know if you guys know about financial services. Old Swiss German company. I would go into
Speak
a
about
building.
it.
I would
Speak
go
about
into
it.
a
Yes.
building with, the interior is solid marble. It's not marble facing, you know, the richest of the rich, right? Supposed to be here forever. I used to joke and call it Papa Suisse, because that's how entrenched it was in society. Papa Suisse did whatever Papa Suisse did, and Papa Suisse no longer is. It got bought up by UBS, and it is not the institution. It was one of the top 5 or 6 financial service firms globally, and they are no more. That says something that I'm still here, and Papa Suisse isn't. And I'm invested in cryptocurrency that is the technology of the future. And
Yes.
so, I mean, I want y'all to put that in some context
Say
now
it
because
again
that's
for the people in the back. Really.
just
And the front and the
the thing is, even if you're in, and I'm not encouraging, and because the only person I have to convince in the world is myself. I'm not responsible for convincing anybody else, but I
Exactly.
want to share about my experience because learn about the technology. You don't have to invest in anything. You got a good job, things are fine with your bank account, you're happy, cool. But the technology is here and it's going to continue to grow. And you're going to want to at least know about it so you can make informed choices. We're hearing, there may be a central bank digital currency, or there may not be, depending upon who's in office. It's most likely coming. I don't care who tells you what they say they're going to do. I mean, you've heard this before, no taxes, and then you get taxes. It's most likely coming because digital currency is the wave of the future. It costs less and
Mhm.
there's more controls over it, so they can actually manage the way your money is spent. And that's a whole
Mhm.
nother
I-
conversation. But you want to know about these things so you can make your own choices.
mhm.
Bitcoin is going to be a far better digital currency than a central bank digital currency will be for
Yeah,
the individual, for
yeah,
sure. So
yeah.
this is why you want to just study things and learn about them.
It's interesting. Touching upon what you just referenced, I did read that it's really kind of semantics, where one candidate, kind of led people to believe that he wouldn't be supporting it. But the difference is that the entity which controls it will be different. And that's already in the books, it's already in the house, and so forth. So he could say that he will not be doing, because it's not going to be coming from that part of the government. It's going to be a different entity than what's already existing. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, Coochie Coach. I just want to say hello to the people. April, hello, what's going on? The Coochie Coach. She says Lehman Brothers is going to. Folks, folks thought they would be around forever,
Yeah.
right? Forever,
Mhm.
ever, never. And she said the companies are disappearing. Answer said we have to participate in the prompting and growing of the database of these AI tools. I don't know if you know that. We were just talking about it because when you talk about evolution, our girl here, Kim, she's evolving. Like we were just talking about prompt engineering, and she's really, really good. And if you Google prompt engineering, this is for all our women and our men in color. Prompt engineering is paying 200K. So you're talking about a sister, Noy Brooks, who if you look at her bio, she's evolved. Prompt engineering is paying more and you don't have a degree? Come on, people.
It's true. Hmm.
So I want to talk a little bit about something that Ansel, I think, said about databases too. Because one of the things about AI, we're all using the data that we're being fed, but what data is making it into our our feed, right? What data isn't making it into our feed? And healthcare is an area where I think about that a lot, because the American Medical Association is definitely all over AI. It's cost effective for them. Um, Insurance companies are all over AI because it's cost effective for them. And when you combine medical and insurance, I mean, if you've got a doctor that misdiagnoses and then there's a suit, you're already paying the doctor hundreds of thousands of dollars. With AI, you don't have to pay all that money. And AI has already been proven to have better averages of diagnosing than physicians do. So, what's coming down the pipeline is that if AI doesn't co-sign on a physician's diagnosis, then that diagnosis is not going to wash, because from insurance perspective, it's a business. They're going to cover their back end. Um, so American Medical Association is going to be all over this, and they're already building their infrastructure and probably have already rolled out some things. But what's not going to make it in? If I, as an individual, have gotten diagnosed with something and I want to do some research using AI, are other schools of medicine going to be included? Is chiropractic going to be included as part of my choices? Is homeopathy going to be
That's
included? Is acupuncture? What is going to be in my database?
Mhm.
And so this is the back end of AI. What makes it into your feed? And
Mhm.
that's very important. People aren't having conversations about that. And I view that as a part of the ethical AI conversation. Like, who gets to roll out all of their information? And then is all this great wealth of historical knowledge not going to be rolled into AI? Because we're all going to be using it. You
Mhm.
know, I mean, we already are using it. I do most of my searches through AI. I don't go to Google unless like I need an address maybe or something like that. I really tailor my searches through AI as much as I can.
Mhm.
So what's going to be available to us? And that's why it's so important to be on the back end of where the data is coming from, what's in it, what's being left out, because we've got all of human history, and if we've got big businesses gatekeepers, it's not going to go well for us,
Mhm.
in my
Mhm.
humble opinion.
Yeah, yeah. In the very early days of AI, even before the chat GPTs came out, because at least a year before I was delving into it, um, but I know that a lot of, because again, it's about all the information that's being put on the platforms that's been fed to it. So a lot of information surrounding people of color was getting overlooked. More and more of that has been put on, but it's touching upon
Right.
exactly what you're saying here. It's true. It's true because
And
many of the people who are involved in the creation of they don't
Behind the scenes.
consider, yeah,
Hmm.
they don't consider other people. It's just like, for the years of us being in New York and many TV shows like Friends, if it didn't have any people of color, I was like, how you like? I mean, but granted, people do live that.
Well, girlfriends were first. Girlfriends,
True, true,
but
true, 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 true.
girlfriends were first. We
Yes,
all watched that. Then it was friends. But
right.
hey, um,
It's true.
Evelyn, what's up, Evelyn from Disrupt Dial? She says AI is taking us a central role in healthcare faster than most realize, even in
Yes,
mental health
yes.
care. She says it's interesting how women of color are the least invested in AI's traditional investment as well. Agreed.
absolutely, Evelyn. And this is why I'm a proponent of us getting involved in the technology, because we're all going to shape it. I mean, I think back to, so when I published my two coloring books, it was October and November of 2023. So one would think coloring books are easy, and they are easy if you're doing a Christmas coloring book or a Halloween coloring book. But if you're doing a coloring book that includes images of Black men, not even Black boys, but Black men, it is not easy to generate or prompt for those images. Now, it's even harder to do coloring images to some extent because AI wants to give you detail,
Mhm,
right? And what you want to do is pull back all the detail and you just want basically a line drawing. But
mhm,
if you're looking for something that's outside of the norm, like images of Black men, you got to somebody there's got to be hundreds, thousands of us prompting for that, for
mhm,
it to begin to understand that
mhm,
this is an element,
mhm,
that's in the system, and to respond to that, which is, so that's why it's so important that we are in the space, and all that we bring, our shared histories and experiences, so that current and future generations will have this wealth of individual knowledge to draw on. We
mhm,
used to share things verbally through
mhm,
stories,
mhm,
and then it became written. And now it's going to be through these data banks. And we need to start our own, right? Like hospitals have their own data banks and databases now. We can collectively come together and create our own Black and brown databases and data banks where we store our historical information that we want for future generations, and where we want to find information. So it's just something to think about.
mhm,
This is brilliant, and I say this because I like to integrate as above, so below. As we talk about, we're seasoned women, and BK Crypto in a sense has been really focusing on also the children, because we talked about how do we now really evolve? How do we create the coding in the database so that we can really now be part of the community and search for finding ourselves in images, the children, the children, the children, the children. The schools are not educating the children in technology and AI. We do know there are certain schools, private schools, that literally are based just technology in helping children to create in spaces like AI, like Web3, like digital film and animation. But we're not doing enough of that for our brown and Black kids. Recently, BK Crypto has had the opportunity to teach at schools, and you know these kids are brilliant, but you got to give them a chance and a tool. And when we started bridging the gap between wealth finances and crypto, these children already knew about the history of money. They knew about taxes. They knew how to do the gamification. I mean, when you give a child a chance or something, because a lot of times these schools, and I'm gonna keep it real, are dumbing these kids down and they're bored. They don't have behavioral issues. They're bored.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We got to introduce something new as women who are birthers to this new nation. We're going to need a Noi, a Disrupt the Dow, a BK Crypto. We're going to need a Coochie Coach. We're going to need to foster and nurture these children. They're crying.
I want to say something to what you. Thank you for that, and thank you for everyone in the chat who are bringing these things to the forefront. So I can have this conversation here because I know the people I'm traveling with. Very metaphysical. The souls that are being incarnated now, I don't even know.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Next level. That is why they're coming down. They're ready to take the starship to some place where it has never gone before. So we came down to open the road for them because I have no idea where they're going to take this thing. But we're here to bridge, from where we're coming to where we're going. So it does behoove us to now. The school system is eventually going to fall away because it's not going to serve anybody. So, but we don't want to wait for that. And these young beings that are coming forth now are going to get access to the tech information because it's somewhat accessible online.
Mm-hmm.
But we do need to set up a new school system that supports these new minds and new ways of internalizing information. Metaverse and AI, and businesses are already using metaverse to train their people because what I
Yes.
discovered for myself doing COVID, I thought I was a visual learner until COVID. And then I realized, oh, no, I'm experiential.
Mm-hmm.
I need to have hands-on tactile involvement to learn things. Looking at a Zoom is not going to do it for me. And so what's available in the metaverse, and then you augment that with AI, you can have 30 kids from 30 different learning levels. You can have your uber advanced child and your English as a second language child and the so-called remedial. And remedial really is the child that just needs to learn another way. But because our school system is so restrictive, they get locked into ADHD and they need drugs or da-da-da-da-da, and you need this. When really what they need to do is be out in the woods, maybe smelling things and touching things or climbing things, because that's how they learn. We can do this in the metaverse, and these souls are gonna come back with some, I don't know what. That's all I can say. That's why I want to stay up with this technology, because I want to be able to understand some of this stuff. When people start saying all these things, and I'm like, what? Which is how I was when I learned about digital currency. I was like, it's not real. That's very real.
I want to give light to Red Demon VR because he's in the teaching space, and he says we have to be patient. I'm a teacher and a student at the same damn time. He said because students and teachers have a disconnect because no one is listening. We had that conversation. I did a journey yesterday. I facilitated a journey and with two brilliant men, and they basically teach men. And they were talking about as men, they have to show up where if they can prove that they're not in fear of the student, then they can connect. See what's going on with our brothers now in school. And once they can show that I'm not in fear of you, then they're open to learn and to learn what you have to share and connect. And so they bring it in spatial and emotional intelligence, mental. We talked about the mental and the technology together. And Red Demon BR just said, yes, so true. So there's so many segments to this piece of pie of evolution. And I believe Evelyn stated that I personally recommend me and Brooks Meditative men's coloring book particularly work with older teens and young adults. It's a wonderful tool. Right, we need the tools, but also we need to let the community know that there are tools because they don't know that there are. How do we get that out there?
BK Crypto Echo. I mean, we continue to have conversation is the way that we get it out there. We keep showing up and we keep doing things and we keep Coochie Coach, I love this. We keep shamelessly bragging about what we're doing to anyone who will listen, and we catch the right ears. And we do what we build together in community. I think that is the strongest thing because I'm a lifelong solo person. I thought well, I don't want to get too deep in the woods, but I watched my parents growing up, and I decided as a very young person I was going to have to do this thing myself. And I happily have learned later in life that that's not the way to do things.
Yeah.
Doing things in community, vibing off of one another. I mean, ideas can come out of this conversation alone that then we can put together and put boots on the ground and build something. So the way we don't share tools unless we have these conversations, and then people can drop things in the chat, and somebody who comes on later who couldn't be here can see something, go, I'm gonna get that book, or I'm gonna research this, and then they can reach back out to BK Crypto Echo and begin to build and start joining communities. Communities is the way.
Yeah, yeah. Even like you're joining Journey to Wealth back in 2020, that right there opened the doors. That's what it's about because we need to go beyond our comfort zone and just, connect with other people. And I'm a firm believer that whatever you believe in, it it puts people in your path who are aligned with you. But you, as a person, we always have to go and do something that interests us. And then we'll find like-minded individuals during that journey. And you never know who's going to be able to help you. And I think the same thing is true for students, today, because going back to the whole school system, I know that when the guys have gone into the schools, even before speaking recently, an administrator said, don't have much hope for these kids. And then those kids were extremely intelligent, but their intelligence, it went beyond the classroom. They granted that one of these kids broke down the whole history of money. One of these kids knew blockchain, and we were like, and these were kids of color. So you have to be doing something that's interesting to them. You have to be teaching them something that's interesting, and it's important because many kids do not get the financial aspect in their homes. I'm trying to think of myself.
Right. Who was you but think about it. Who was you as a kid growing up as a brown woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
We were stuck in boxes, but based on our learning, my mom was a teacher too, and we learned differently, visually, right? Like you said, kinesthetics, audio, and when you're in a system you can't afford a private school, it's exactly just teaching everyone one way. I had a child who had an IEP, but because of my mom and she saw in him drawing images at 2 with a whole body, a whole stick figure, and I was like, I don't know, that's amazing. But she was like, it's amazing. She did early childhood, and she used to look at furniture and see numbers and letters, And so when you have someone who understands that your kid is dynamic and not let the system control that mind space. At one point, I thought there was something wrong with my son. I'm not going to lie. Until it was like, oh my God, he's a superhero. But I had to feed him the right tools to get him the nourishment that he required to be in his ascension and his truth. And I got tested for him, his standard Binet testing, and learned that he learns this way. He's tactile, or he's a visual learner. And I was a full advocate unapologetically in certain schools, in charter schools, be like, nah, this is not it. Kim has a son who is a math whiz.
Yeah. I just want to add that Well, for one thing, the system will make you think that there's something wrong because that's the whole thing of testing. If they don't, fit into the box of testing, something must be wrong. It's not like, oh wow, they're a super overachiever. Or it's just they operate differently. It's that something's wrong. Um, Wherever we can, we need to pour into young people. My mom was a substitute teacher, and my sisters and I were lucky that she was a substitute teacher because whatever they said kids were supposed to be learning at the age of 8 in the third grade, we were learning when we were 4 because my mom was, so over reliance on the school system. And honestly, over reliance is necessary sometime when you got to work 2 and 3 jobs just to keep a roof over your head and keep the kids fed. So I don't want to come off as oversimplifying anything, but if education in the home is paramount, I think it's sometimes more important than what you're going to get in the schooling system because you can already set your kid up to be ahead of the game. And they will know that they have a safe space at home to be who they are. They won't be scared to ask questions or raise their hand or feel like they're sticking out like a sore thumb if they're really into their books or stuff like that, which is something I experienced in school, like a little bit of alienation because I was this kid who loved to learn. It was a bookworm and always had questions. And then I was transferred to a school where that wasn't cool, but at least I had a safe space at home. And hopefully that's not anyone's reality today, but knowing kids, it might be some people's reality. So whatever they can get, and if the child isn't yours, I was listening to a podcast recently where this man was talking about how he went somewhere and a woman who was there just poured into him. She saw this little boy who was inquisitive and needed something, and she shared with him about meditation. He was 12 and it changed his whole life. And so just if you see something in a child somewhere and you have access to that child, you don't know what you say or do that day, how that can change the trajectory. And if you can share a little something about what you learned today or what you saw or what you see in that child, because it's planting seeds. And that is also a part of way of educating. If we can't rely on the school system, because everything's got to be revamped with the school system. It's the methodology, it's who's the teachers who are teaching the methodology, it's indoctrinating children to a new way of learning now. And we're all making this up as we go along, but that's why metaverse is so cool. You can make mistakes in the metaverse and then real world application. So that's why all of this technology is super interesting.
Amazing.
Talking about health and technology and talking about dealing with the digital world and catching up. How do you prioritize your physical and mental well-being in a rapidly changing industry?
I don't think I'm succeeding. I might be all my talk, I might be a poor case study because I find, and I have found since doing my first rabbit hole dives into crypto, I'm just like up all night watching video after video. I mean, it's better than, binging on Netflix for sure, because I'm actually getting, information that adds value to my life. But I have to work hard at balancing and stepping away. And my body will let me know, but I'll tell you, my mind will be like, wait, we're in this rabbit hole and we're getting new information. I'm having new ideas now. And I got 100 kabillion ideas that I'm not going to be able to execute on if I don't take care of the body. So that is one thing that reminds me that, I'm a human vehicle and it is having easily accessible mindfulness practices. And for me, that's whatever it is for you. Coloring was something I found. It could be meditation. One thing I'm fortunate enough to be able to do, I don't get a lot of sun in my apartment, but on a sunny day when I can feel like I'm getting a little crazy in my head and I haven't, it's 3 o'clock and I haven't had my first glass of water yet, let alone food, to just go take myself to the front stoop and sit and get some sun on me, just to remember that and to be in conversations like this that remind me that I have to be mindful and to take care of the whole vehicle, because the technology will like pull you in. It's moving fast. The space is moving fast. AI, there's another tool being dropped every day. I think I'm, going down the wormhole trying to learn one technology, and I put my head up, and there's a next technology that can do it 3 times as fast and better. And I'm like, why did I waste time?
Mhm.
Why did I subscribe to that? Well, I should have waited 2 days. So it's about making choices, right? It's about making choices. I think it helps if you have a family, because kids
Mhm.
will pull you out. I live alone and I don't. So, I used to think it was I have the luxury of, going, but now I'm like, I need somebody to help pull me out of this stuff, because it will pull you in. And you just have to make choices to remind yourself that, we are and I want to be a biological being. I want to enjoy the sunshine and go to the
Mhm.
park and to dance and have those kinds of experiences. And so I have to choose to involve myself in the technology and involve myself in the real world. And having conversations again is a way to do both. Even you
Mhm.
get to um, have these amazing conversations about what you can create, but you're still with people. And I think it's just so important, again, community, to
Mhm.
be with people.
Mhm. Do you ever collaborate with other individuals on any of your art creation and stuff like
So I haven't yet, but where collaboration comes in for me is with Disruptor DAO.
that?
So I am on the core team of Disruptor DAO. Disruptor DAO is an outgrowth of Journey to Wealth, and
Mhm.
Disruptor DAO is a Web3 organization um, that is using or becoming an organization that will be using blockchain technology to
Mhm.
support the work we are doing. Disruptor DAO is focused on really excelling in the space of investment and using and building all of these innovative technologies. And we're focused on women doing this, because when women access this information and put it to use for us, the whole community wins. And that's not to say that that doesn't happen with men, but women tend to be the caregivers. And so we naturally will pour all this information we're getting into anyone who's around us. And any wins that we get monetarily are going to be going into the family and the kids and excelling their lives. So when you access all of these things in the vehicle of a woman, it tends to really filter out into your surroundings in a much more direct way. And being a Web3 company, and so DAOs are decentralized autonomous organizations. Decentralized means unlike corporate's like this, you got and then everybody else. It's more like a cooperative. Everyone who's involved has a stake and is a stakeholder and has a say in the way things are organized. Autonomous, we could be any place, it could be anyone, anywhere around the world, and it's an organization. So that hopefully is understandable for the layperson. And our focus again is just building our community,
Mhm.
making this making all this juicy stuff accessible, and traveling and learning and building together, and finding a way where we can build our current businesses, whatever they are, and take advantage of this technology, be it Web3 or the metaverse or AI or whatever new is coming down that we don't yet know about, and building our businesses and maybe making them global in a way we couldn't do before, or maybe structuring our businesses in a way where we own the data and we're not reliant on, my followers on Instagram or anything like that, because that was Web 2. The big is all the, data banks, they have all of your information, and if they shut you down, then oh my god, where's my customer base? There's got to be another way, and moving into this technology is a way where we begin to have our own ownership and can build our own worlds, our own metaverses, our own AI data banks. But we do have to come together, and I don't know how to do that. um, but I want to, and I do want to work in conjunction with others on my art because I feel like that's what this whole thing is about, right? It's about coming together and building something magnificent. And we all have amazing ideas. And AI is propelling us in that direction. Anyone who uses AI, the AI got 105 things you can do. We have to do the thing though. But it's, oh, you could do this, and I'm like, great, yeah. Thanks.
Oh my God.
Another thing
I
I
love
have to
it.
put on my list of things to do.
Yes, 100%. Listen, before we echo out of here, this has been amazing, a plethora of information. And, we are the technology. And before we end this note, I want to ask of this. I want to take in part of this wonderful energy of the new moon, right, which is in Gemini, which is about communication. And I want to ask you, what is one thing that you actually want to create and echo into the stratosphere, into the universe?
It's actually what you just said. And you just reminded me that I wanted to share this. We are the technology. The most amazing technology we have is our consciousness. AI doesn't have that. It's debatable whether AI will ever have it. Some people seem to think so, but human consciousness, it is the tool of elevation. And that's what I want to echo into the universe. We have our consciousness, and that this whole learning construct is to elevate our consciousness. And we have tools to do, I mean, the tools that we're getting, exponential elevation.
Amen. On that note, we will exactly join us next week at 11, 12-ish for the next installment of Echo. Thank you so much, Noi, for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you in Disruptor DAO, in Journey to Wealth, in BK Crypto, and in the future. Rashon, is there something you want to say?
Yep, I want Noi to letting people know how they can find her through her channels.
Yes. On Instagram, I'm meditative, MEDITATIVE, men book. And my website, which is still under construction, but you can go there, is meditativemenbook.com. Those are my two channels. Please reach out, say hello. I'd love to chat.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, what you got? Echo, echo, echo.
Echo, echo.